Happy Friday of this 12 days of Vlogmas, fam. It is your girl T, aka the nappy-headed jojoba, not nappy, not jojoba, nappy-headed jojoba. You have to say the whole thing. It's like a Tribe Called Quest. And you saw the title/thumbnail correctly. Project Exodus is back. In fact, it never went away. It's just that most of the conversations I've been having around it have been over on my Patreon, and though I want to make sure all the actual resources for Project Exodus are always free and publicly available on YouTube, I haven't had the time or energy to devote to creating those resources because a bitch has been working. But I am back today with 10 tips and or resources that I have compiled for you to help plan your immigration. I've said this many times before, but I'll say it again in case you are unfamiliar. Project Exodus is just what I am calling a collection of resources that I've been compiling over the course of this year to help Black Americans who are interested in emigrating to live elsewhere in pursuit of freedom, peace, and happiness to have at least the momentum going to help us get started in terms of figuring out how to actually make this happen. The idea of moving to another country can seem daunting, cost prohibitive, all sorts of obstacles may seem to be in the way. So Project Exodus is just me trying to gather as much information as I can as I do my own preparation to help y'all. So let's jump into these tips and resources, and today is going to be very much focused on finances. We've already covered a lot of things like the initial questions you need to ask to even get to the point of figuring out your short list of where you might want to move to. And I will link the Project Exodus playlist both here in a card and in the D box. Those videos are focused on things like questions that Black Americans need to ask ourselves before we even begin our preparations, essentially how to begin to begin. So there may be a lot of information in there that might help you at least get started. These tips are more focused on that beginner intermediate phase where you're actually taking actionable steps to pursue your immigration. All 10 of these resources and tips are going to be very financially oriented because that is what decides whether you're able to go or not. At the end of the day, one reason that people are unable to leave is they simply don't have the financial resources, which segues perfectly to tip number 1 for getting your finances in check to actually be able to pursue your immigration, and that is to do a no-buy. A no-buy means not buying anything that is unnecessary. Says the person who literally just did a video yesterday talking about just a handful of the times I played myself buying things that were not necessary. We are all works in progress. All of our situations are going to be different, but even if you do a no-buy, it can be shorter term. There have been quite a few different YouTubers, usually in the beauty space, who have done no-buys for a whole year where they don't buy any new makeup, any new, skincare, cosmetics, except for re-ups on things that they use all the time. Restocking on things that they burn through. I think that is a great way to, one, break the habit of buying things unnecessarily, cold turkey basically, and 2, to get real with yourself about what your priorities are. Is more makeup, more clothing, more hair products more important than your freedom? Having said all that, y'all know I like to call myself on my own shit. I don't think I have it in me to do a no-buy for a whole year. Playing with style, aesthetic, all of that is part of my joy. It's, in a sense, my hobby. So in looking at doing a no-buy to get your finances in order, you could also look at doing one more short term. I, in fact, have done many no-buys. I've just never done one for a whole year. I've usually done them for a month, 2 months, shorter stretches like that. But because I am getting real about my finances now for Project Exodus, I'm looking more at a 3 to 6 month no-buy for myself. And I'm doing this for mental reasons just as much as I'm doing it for financial ones. I don't want to be beholden to feeling the need to buy, consume, because that is how they keep us in this hamster wheel of exploitation through capitalism. So if you're reticent to even start a no-buy, or maybe you're already on one and you're just feeling tempted to spend, just take a look around and take stock of all of the piles of crap that you already own, and also think about how much crap you're going to have to deal with when you move, because moving to a different country, game changer in terms of having to declutter. Number 2, it's another tip, and it's a money-saving tip. Real simple, one word in fact: cook. I would avoid spending money on takeout food, restaurant food, anything like that entirely if possible. This is something that I have also done for at least a month. We did this together actually a couple years ago on my channel, where we basically committed to cooking all of our meals at home. 1, it saves you a ton of money, obviously. 2, depending on how you cook, and y'all know who you are, it can actually be a lot more healthful for you as well. When you cook at home, you tend to cook your foods a lot more healthfully than restaurants will do. We're not at home putting entire sticks of butter into one dish, whereas at restaurants, they do that. They also use a lot of salt. Not only will cooking obviously save you a lot of money, as we've covered, but it will also help to break those addiction cycles to these hyper palatable foods from restaurants, especially like the fast food joints where all of their foods are designed by guys in lab coats, not chefs. It'll be a great reset for your palate. The less you have foods like that, the less you want them. And depending on how much you eat out now, it could wind up saving you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over the course of a year or 6 months, however long you decide to do it, to really commit to cooking all of your meals. Tip number 3, sell some stuff. As you declutter, start looking at things you can sell, like single-use appliances like that juicer you never use. There are tons of options for you to sell off disused items that you just have lying around, eBay, Etsy, many, many more. Or if you're not selling off things that you no longer need, you could also just start a side hustle of something that you make or do. Random ideas, but you could do Zoom vocal lessons if you have a talent for that. You can make homemade face masks because mask life isn't ending anytime soon. Offering cleaning services, making internet. We're in a time where there are a lot more options for us to create side hustles. We just have to be practical and creative about it. Indeed, this is my side hustle right here, YouTube and of course my Patreon. And using those as a great example, I can continue to do these after I leave. Ideally, try to find a side hustle that you can continue to do to continue to generate income after you actually emigrate. Tip number 4, cut the cord. When it comes to streaming services like HBO Max now, which I guess is different from HBO Home, whatever it was called. Then we got the Netflix and the Hulu and the Amazon. Cut the cord on any of those streaming services that are redundant, because do you really need Disney Plus and Hulu and Netflix? And if you really do feel like you need more than one of them, split logins with friends or family. Maybe your cousin picks up the tab for HBO Max and you take Netflix. That way you still have access to all of the streaming services that you need, but at least then you're not shelling out your own money on 3, 4, 5, 6 different streaming services. Tip number 5, and this one's tricky, so this is only if you're really good and responsible with your money. If you're not, seriously, just skip ahead and don't even listen to this. Go ahead to number 6. If and only if you are very good with your money, use credit cards that have points reward systems to your advantage. I happen to be more than good with my money. I'm actually really, really good with my money because I'm very disciplined about it. So even though I like to buy frivolous things like makeup and clothes and stuff like that, I always make sure that whatever I spend in a month is not more than what I can pay off in full that month. In other words, I never carry a balance from month to month on my credit card. I pay it off in full every month. The credit companies therefore never get to screw me over on interest, and then I still get points benefits for using my credit card on whatever purchases throughout the month. I've been doing this basically my entire adult life, and I've gotten several free flights and things out of it. Depending on what card you have, you can sometimes exchange your points for a statement credit, which is essentially just cash back. And yeah, because I'm not paying out interest to the credit card companies, it works out to be quite literally free money for me. And it's really handy to have all of these points and rewards for flights and things, because guess what? I'm going to need a flight somewhere when I move. If you want to get an idea of which cards offer the best rewards programs, because there are an intimidatingly large number of credit card options out there, go and check out the Points Guy. It's a really good resource for that, and I will link that website in the description box. Tip/resource number 6. This is about figuring out how much money you need to leave. One question that I get a lot and that I see a lot is, how much money do I need? Now, remember in school when people would say things like, there's no such thing as a bad question, or there's no such thing as a stupid question? They were lying to you. No tea, no shade, but that's a bad question. No one else can tell you how much money you need to emigrate. Least of all, no one else can do that for you without knowing your lifestyle and needs, where you want to move to, when you want to move there, who you're bringing with you. There's too many factors. It's a ridiculous question. Only you can answer that question for yourself, but a great resource to do that is Nomad List. It basically lets you look at different cities all around the world and more or less calculate what it costs to live there. It basically lets you look at different cities and even different neighborhoods within those cities all around the world. You can get an idea of what average rents are like, even things like air quality, safety, things like that. Nomad List is just helpful for you to actually look at a place and see if it's within your budget, how much money you will need to actually live in whatever place you are looking at. Which brings us to tip number 7 of actually answering that question for yourself of how much money you need to leave. Using resources like Nomad List and a couple others I'll get to later, as well as just knowing your own needs and lifestyle and whatnot, figure out that amount of money that you will need to leave and figure out how soon you could reasonably do it. It's time to pull out the calculators and crunch those numbers. What this will do is it will help you figure out exactly how much money you need to be putting away monthly. Under this bigger scope of how much money I need to leave, how much money I need to emigrate, under that will fall the subset of this is how much money I need to save every month for this many months or even for this many years to be able to leave on this, which is my desired day or month or year to emigrate. Once you know how much money you need to be saving each month to adhere to your timeline, to your goal of emigration, just stick to it, really. In the end, with this and probably with all the other tips I've given thus far, it's all about discipline. Tip number 8. Even if you haven't done all of this stuff, even if you haven't taken the steps that I just outlined in tips 6 and 7, if you are serious, if you are for real about this, don't use not knowing your number, your target, as a reason to procrastinate saving today. Set up an automatic savings account now, even if you don't know your number yet, where automatically from your checking to your savings, whatever amount is realistic for you gets put away by itself. You don't have to do anything. And that way you're at least building and building bit by bit each month. Now, let's be real. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who would love to be saving up and putting money away toward emigration, but they can't even do it because how can you save money when you don't have any money coming in? There's a tragic irony to the fact that this government has left so many of us high and dry, which is exactly why we want to move, but them leaving us high and dry is also why a lot of people may not be able to move anytime soon. People out here are making the impossible choice between paying for food or paying for rent, and then there's still many more who can't afford to pay for either. Even before Project Exodus, it was a big goal for me to be able to start saving money again, and I'm so grateful and happy that I was able to start doing that sometime in the spring. If you do still have some money coming in, it may require making sacrifices to save, but think about it this way, saving even $25 a month and just putting it away within a year, that's $300. That's a flight. Tip number 9, and this one again is for people who are fortunate enough to still have money coming in right now. Decide if working with a relocation specialist is something that you need and budget for that. Off rip, that might sound like a luxury, like something unnecessary, like something, that's not worth putting my money toward. You know, why would I pay this person hundreds or even thousands of dollars when I can keep that money for myself and put it toward my actual immigration process? But I would say maybe reconsider that. Don't be afraid of the cost of getting help if it makes the difference in you actually getting out. Relocating to a new country can be a lot of work, trust me, because I am trying to do it myself right now, but I am seriously considering starting to budget for a specialist to help me. It can seem overwhelming to the point of wanting to just throw up your hands and give up. So again, don't let that fear of having to pay for help be the thing that stops you from actually leaving. And tip number 10 is to start building your network of resources and encouragement for your immigration process now. And by that, I do not mean following a bunch of travel blogger expats on IG or on YouTube who post nothing but vacation imagery. Included within those resources might be consulting with or working with a relocation specialist, as I mentioned in tip 9, and there are some great ones out there, one of which many of you will already know, the Global Black Girl, aka Marina. She's been on my channel many times at this point. Editing T here, and I don't know how I forgot to mention this, but I probably just kind of figured that I've mentioned it a lot of times already, but in case you missed it, I'm actually going to be attending a retreat in Costa Rica this April that is being hosted by the Global Black Girl. I was going to attend as a guest. She went ahead and invited me to be a whole ass facilitator. So if you want to attend, all the info is linked in the D box. Because Project Exodus is focused on immigration from the perspective of Black Americans, I do recommend looking for resources that are from Black perspectives. Resources can include a consultation or working long-term with a Black relocation specialist. Marina has been on my channel a number of times at this point, and she has a wealth of information about emigrating as a Black person to Central and South America. She also has a network of other people in other places. There's also Nubia Young, who's another Black expat currently living in Tulum. There's also a wealth of resources right here on YouTube. There are several channels of Black expats talking about their experiences living abroad, you know, really getting into the realities of it, how they did it, what it's like, all of that. And even if you have the desire but not the finances to work with a Black relocation specialist, there's also the Blacksit Global blog, which I will link below along with everyone else I've mentioned. The Blacksit Global blog is also another great resource. That's actually how I first heard about Nomad List, so I'll link them too. And one more free resource to help you build that network of resources and encouragement for your emigration is to follow some Black relocation specialists anyway. Even if you never actually sign up to work with one where you're actually paying for their assistance, many of them will have free workshops on Zoom, guides, and other resources that can be super helpful, where even if you want to enlist them for their help properly, maybe you just can't afford it, but you can still get at least some of their guidance. That is in fact how I first became acquainted with Nubia Young. She was hosting a free Zoom, I believe it was over the summer, about emigration in general, her experiences, her do's and don'ts, and a lot of these Black expats who now are in that sort of consultation, relocation specialization and help. A lot of people do stuff like that. So that's another area where you want to do some research and start looking around to see if you can find expats who maybe live where you're looking at, and start looking to them as a resource to get an idea of what your life might look like, how much money you need, whether you're actually looking at the right place to eventually call your home. That is it. Those are 10 tips and resources to get your money right in preparation for your emigration from the United States as a Black person. As I said earlier, all of the external resources that I touched upon will be linked in the D box for you, including a video that I did where I basically just ran down a bunch of YouTube channels of Black expats in different countries all around the world. YouTube, always a great free resource. I hope that this was helpful. There is still more Project Exodus content on the way. This was actually supposed to be a video that I did literally months ago. It's just been that busy with work that I just kind of put it on the back burner, and then I had more pressing videos to get done in the meantime. In any event, if you are serious about seeking your freedom and getting out of these United States, you can do it. You just have to be disciplined about it. I believe in you. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay dangerous, and never trust anyone with a Morphe code. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.